think it starts at 64
Right.
and goes to 68.
It's supposed to carry them off
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple that have zeros in there, and I don't know either why they're there.
Okay. Any particular one you're looking at?
I don't know, I just remember I had trouble on.
Oh, no, okay. Okay, 30%. You want to basically get a decimal for 30%. So the concept is drop the decimal, the percent sign, because it's useless, it's just tradition, and divide by 100. So you're basically going to be looking at 30 over 100. All the zeros you can cancel off because they just represent multiplication by 10. So that's 3/10. And on decimal form, that would be 3 right, just to the right of the decimal point. So it would be 3 in the 10th position. So that would be this one right here. That's E. Okay? Now 33 and a third percent. Again, dropping that percent sign and dividing by 100. Well, that presents a problem because you got a mixed number there and so forth. So change into an improper. 3 times 33 is 99 plus 1 is 100 thirds. That's right. And we want to divide that by 100. We don't divide fractions that way. We flip them over and multiply. So that's 100 over 1. So it's 100 thirds times 1 over 100. Now go the hundreds, 1/3. Okay, now 1/3 in decimal form is which one?
Wait.
It's D.
It's the repeater.
It's a repeater. 1/3 is a repeater. Okay, so that's going to be D. The others go the same way. Is anyone else interested in this, or is?
Yeah.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, 125%. Again, dropping the percent sign, divide by 100. Okay, let's reduce the fraction so we can get it into some nice form. Or you can simply say, if I'm going to divide by 100, I can take that 125 and shift the decimal point from where it is to the left. Because that's what dividing by 100 does. And you get 1.25. And there it is, F. 50%? Turns out to be 50 over 100, huh? 5/10, which is 0.5. Okay, and that's going to be this one up here, that's B. Now 1%, that's 1 over 100, no? Okay. If you want to, you can think of taking that 1, the decimal point is just again to the right of it, and move it to the left. So that becomes 0.01, which is 8. 80%. Drop it, put it over 100. Cancel, that's 8/10, which would be 0.8 in the 10th position. And that's C. Okay? So that's the process of going from cents to decimals.
If we put 0.8, would that still be the right answer?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
If we put 0.8 for the answer, would that still be right, or would that be wrong?
For this one?
Yeah, the last one.
The real answer is 0.80.
Oh, that's a trailing zero, that makes no difference at all.
57.
57. Okay. Okay, they give you a diagram, looks like two pizzas, but this one's completely there, and this one seems to be only half there. And they're saying use a percent to express the shaded portion of each drawing. Okay, now this is a little tricky because you have to say to yourself, all right, I've got a drawing, and the drawing consists of two pizzas, but what's one whole thing? Well, one whole thing is one pizza, complete pizza, right?
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
one.
One whole thing is represented in percentage terminology by what? It's 100% of it, right? Okay, so this is 100%. Because you got one whole thing there. And then you only have half of this one, and that's going to be half of 100%, which is the 50%. So the entire thing together is 150%. That's what that picture represents. 150%. Any others? Okay. What we did yesterday, let's just do a little diagram up here. We're going to create the second part of the diagram today, but yesterday, we'll start out with some boxes like this. So a flow chart. We're going from percents, and we want to go to two places. Yesterday, we went from percents to fractions and percents to decimals. So we can do it like this. We can say, okay, I'm going to go over here to fractions. And the way to do that is drop the percent sign and divide by 100 or multiply by 1 over 100. Either one's fine. They're the same thing. And you can see what we're doing, because we're going to fractions, we're multiplying by something which obviously is going to look like a fraction. So that's why we use 100 in this form, 1 over 100, or we divide by 100. The second thing we did yesterday is to go not to fractions, but to decimals. And in order to do that, it's just slightly different. We drop the percent sign, and this time we multiply by the decimal that represents 1 over 100, which is 0.01. And that's going to go to a decimal. If you know that's your goal, you multiply by a decimal. If you're going to a fraction as your goal, you multiply by a fraction. Simple. Okay, so that's what we've been doing. That's what your homework was last night. Now, what we want to do is to go the opposite direction. We want to go back here, this way. And back here. Well, this may sound a little strange, but it's just exactly what you might think it is, and that is reverse the process. So, if you're going to start with a decimal or a fraction, and you want to go to a percent, what you're going to do is multiply by 100 and attach the percent sign. Likewise down here, multiply by 100 and attach the percent sign. So it's a very simple process. Let's do some numbers and see how it goes. Suppose we start out with a decimal, 0.62. We want to convert that into percent notation. Okay. All the directions, multiply by 100. If you multiply that by 100, you're going to make the number bigger. Making the number bigger, a decimal bigger, means moving its decimal point to the right. Huh? And every multiplication by 10 will move it to the right one time. And we're multiplying by 10 twice here. So it's going to go twice to the right. So this would be a 62, attach a percent sign, and you're done. That's almost too easy. Yeah, but that's all there is to it. So if you have something like 1.75, same process. There's nothing new here. It's just do the same thing over and over again. Multiply by 100. That'll move the decimal point to the right. 175. Put a percent sign on it. Now that makes sense because we started out with 1.75. That's a number bigger than 1. And remember, 1 is 100%. Did we end up with a percent bigger than 100%? Yeah, we did. So it does make sense. Once in a while, have a very small percent, and I think we did something like this yesterday, but the reverse process. So you have a number like 4. Now that's in the thousandths position, so if you wanted to say that in words, that would be 4 thousandths. But how do you get it as a percent? Multiply by 100, boing, boing, and that gives you 0.4, and put a percent sign on it. And that's it. 0.4%. Now you can still do fractions that way too. These are decimals, but we can go from fractions over to percents in exactly the same way. They give you a few to do. 3/5. Okay, multiply by 100. Well, if you want to, you can think of it as 100 over 1, and then you multiply two fractions, but cancel first as always. So 5 of that is 1, 6 of that is 20 times. Now you multiply tops, multiply bottoms, you get a 60 here, 1 there, which is just 60. Put a percent sign on it. 3/5 represents the percent called 60%. Now, of course, some fractions are a little bit more challenging than others. You know the kind. Let's say 2/3, huh? Okay, let's see what we can do with it. I want to multiply by 100, or 100 over 1 if you want. Well, now we don't get any canceling, do we? Why? Because 3 doesn't play well with 10 or 100 or 1,000. So, just go ahead and use the basic formula for multiplying fractions. Multiply tops, multiply bottoms. You get a 200 up here and a 3 there. Now, yes, you could attach a percent sign there, but most people would think that you're uneducated or unlearned or not nice or something like that. So let's take it one step further. Let's divide the 3 into 200 and see what we get, huh? Of course, we want to do a decimal division, although you don't have to. You can make it a regular division. All right, 3 into 20. 18. Oops, we're repeating already. My goodness, we just got started and already we're repeating, right?
Yeah.
And as you can see, this will never end, and we all want to have lunch, so. At some point, we've got to stop this silliness, right? So you could write this. Now, if you wrote it as 66.6 bar %, that would be a right answer in the class, because that's a mathematical symbol, and everyone understands what the bar means here. But, you know, the world doesn't understand it. So you got a couple of choices here. That 0.6 bar, if you'll remember, that repeating decimal is in a table. It's table 4 point something or other, or 5 point something or other. And that turns out to be the repeater for ninths, right? Remember that? So this is going to be 6/9, or 2/3, if you reduce it. So probably the best way to express this one is 66 2/3%. That's a mixed number, but strangely enough, people are okay with mixed numbers and percents. You do see that happening.
How about rounding it to 66.7?
You can round.
So the 2/3 is from a 6 bar?
Say
The
again?
2/3 is the same as 6 bar?
0.6 bar, right. It's part of a table that you all memorize. I know you remember it. The only problem is I don't remember where it is.
Where it is, huh?
It's way back at the beginning or something. Yeah, I think it was back in chapter 4 or something, when we did fractions. Okay, so this would be a worldly kind of answer. This would be a math answer. And yes, you could also do it like this, 66.7%. This is a rounded answer, which means you'd have to put a squiggly equal sign there, meaning it's approximately equal to that. It's not exactly. But notice the process is the same. You still multiply by 100 and attach percent. Let's do some mixed number stuff. Suppose we had 2 1/4, and we want to convert that into a percent. All right. Procedure is identical in both cases, fractions or decimals. So we multiply by 100, 100 over 1 if we want. But again, we're multiplying with a mixed number, which is not nice to do. So we'll change it to an improper. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9/4. That gets multiplied by 100. Now we even get some canceling going on. That's nice. 4 into that is 1, so into that is 25 times. Now multiply tops and multiply bottoms, and you get 225, and that's it. So 2 1/4 is 225%. All right. It says convert the fraction to percent notation. This is 5/13. And once again, this is not going to be terribly easy because of that 13 down there. It doesn't mix nicely with hundreds. Okay. Now, in addition to that, it says convert it to percent notation, but then it says rounded to the nearest 1/10 of a percent. That's where you have to be a little careful. All right. Where do you do the rounding? That's the real question here. Well, we can't cancel
The
this thing,
13?
so all we can do is multiply the 5 times the 100 and put a 13 on the bottom. All right, that's a fraction, that's not a decimal, and we have to go further with this. We want to go to percent notation. At this point, we do the actual division. 13 into 500. Okay, 13 into 50?
4.
Nope.
2,
Nope.
3?
Yes. Good guessing, though. Okay, 13 into 110?
8.
8? Let's try 8, see what happens. Yeah, that's good. Okay, now they told us to round the answer to the nearest 1/10 of a percent. Okay, in order to get that, that would be this position here, we gotta go to next. So 13 into 60?
4.
4. And we gotta do one more, bring down zeros, 13 into 80,
6.
that's gonna be at least 5, huh?
Yeah.
6?
And all we need to know is that that's going to be at least 5, because now we'll say this is approximately 38.5%. So when you have these denominators that don't play well with 100, you have to actually do a division problem and so forth. Notice that we divided at the end. After we multiplied these two fractions together, then we took that final fraction and did the division. We didn't go up here and divide 13 into 5 and then multiply that by 100. That process would give you a wrong answer, and it would be different from 38.5% by quite a bit, actually. Okay? Because then you're introducing an error over here at the beginning, which will get multiplied by 100. So it's 100 times as big as you think it is. That's the thing that happens with these repeaters. You keep it in fraction form until the very end, and at the very end you convert it into a decimal form. So it's a little subtle there, because sometimes people will try to round this to the nearest tenth of a percent and multiply by 100. Completely different answers. All right, so we finished the diagram. We can go both ways now. So let's do a chart where we do fill in all the blanks, so to speak, so we can practice this. What they do is give you these tables and say, fill in the various columns. So here's one that has 6 rows on it.
This is all for 6.2, Mr. Little?
Say it again?
This is all for 6.2, the next section, or the same
Yeah.
section?
I'm sorry.
Is this for the same section for 6.1 or 6.2?
Still didn't understand.
What you're doing right now, like all like the percentage and stuff, that's for the next section that we're gonna do today?
No, this is, we're still at 6.2.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. All right.
Okay. Fraction. Decimal and percent. Okay, so they give you 6 different things to look at. They'll give you one of these, and that's going to get the other 2. So here they give you a decimal, and they want the percent and fraction. Here they give you a fraction, and they want the decimal and percent and so forth. So this just puts together 6.1 and 6.2. Okay, let's see if we can go through this. All right. Well, going from a decimal to a percent is a very easy job, isn't it? Because you're going this way. Decimals over to percents, multiplied by 100, attach a percent sign. So if we multiplied that by 100, we'd be moving the decimal point here to the right. That would give us 55, attach a percent sign. That's it. That's all there is to it. All right, now how do we switch from a decimal into a fraction? Well, the best thing to do is simply
55?
take that numerator, forget the decimal point, take the numerator, and divide it by the power of 10 that indicates the far right place value, which is the 100th position. So divided by 100. Okay, now let's see if we can reduce that. Obviously 5 goes into both top and bottom. It goes into the top 11 times, it goes into the bottom 20 times, and that's it. 11 is a prime number, and there's no 11s inside 20, so we're done. So this is 11/20. Everyone okay with that? So they want you to go back and forth between all of these things. Get used to converting. This is a conversion table. Okay, 1 over 200. Well, one thing you can do there, when you're starting with a fraction, is just make it into a division problem. Divide it out. So take the 200 in the denominator, make it your divisor, and divide it into 1. And then put your zeros down to start the division process. Well,
5?
200 doesn't go into 1, it doesn't go into 10, it doesn't go into 100, but it does go into 1,000, doesn't it? So these would be zeros here to begin with, but in 1,000, 200 goes in
5 times.
Right? So that's it. In terms of what is that thing, there's your decimal right there. It's 0.005. So with fractions going to decimals, you just divide. And you can do it on the calculator, it'll give you the same answer, of course. Now let's change that into a percent. Multiply by 100, which moves this thing 2 to the right. So it gives you 0.5 and attach a percent sign. Okay, so this is practice in using that diagram and the other stuff that we learned about converting fractions to decimals and whatnot. All right, now here we're starting with a percent, so we're going the other way now. Now we're coming across this way. And we want to go to both a decimal and a fraction. So we drop the percent sign.
1.6?
Yeah, that's what it'll be. And we want to multiply by 0.01 to get the decimal. That moves the decimal point 2 to the left and becomes 1.6. That's right. Now, if we wanted to go to a fraction, instead of multiplying by 0.01, that is 1/100. So we could just simply multiply by 1/100, and that will take us to what we're looking for, a fraction. So this is 160 over 100. And as usual, you can cancel zeros there. Then you can cancel even more, huh? 2 into that gives you an 8 on the top and a 5 on the bottom. There it is, 8/5. That's the fraction. All right, now we're starting with a decimal. Remember, decimals to percents are very easy. Multiply by 100, move it over twice, and you get 240 percent.
240%, yeah.
And again, going from a decimal to a fraction, forget the decimal point there, and just write it as 24, and then divide by the power of 10 indicated by the 4. That's just 10.
Do you divide,
Okay.
you divide by 100?
No, you divide it by 10. Because you go to the far right place value, which is the 10th position. Yeah. Okay, now let's reduce that thing. That's going to give us a 12 on the top and a 5 on the bottom, and that's it. 12/5 is a perfectly okay answer. It is an improper. If you wanted to, you could actually make it into a mixed number. You could write it as 2 and 2/5. For those of you who are mixed number lovers. There you go. Okay, now they're putting a little trick on us here, huh? 66 2/3%. We just saw that one, right? What does that mean? Well, what's that going to look like as a decimal? 66 2/3, drop the percent sign. Now you're going to have to go to a decimal, you have to divide by 100. Okay. Make it into an improper. 3 times 6 is 18, 3 times 2 is 119, and 2, 194 is it? This is let me just get that. Let me do that right.
It's 101. It's 101, right?
No, 3 times 6 is 18, 3 times 6 is 18, 198 plus 2/3. Okay. So it's 200/3 divided by 100 over 1. Flip it over and multiply 200/3 times 1 over 100. Ah, there it goes. There's 2/3.
Where's the 200 from?
It's 3 times 66, which is 198, plus 2. That's 200.
Yeah, okay.
All right, let's get this as a decimal. Now, getting it as a decimal is a little interesting. According to what we said over there, you've got to multiply by 100 and attach a percent sign. I'm sorry, we're going the other way. We're going from percent over here. It says to drop the percent sign, multiply by 0.01. Yes, but the problem is we've got a repeater going on here. So this is 66. If you remember what I did to get that 2/3 is I took this and said, well, go back to the chart, and this much of it right here, 0.66666 is 6/9, which is 2/3. That's how we got the 2/3 there. All right, so what this really looks like is a whole bunch of 6s. That's the percent. But we're dropping the percent sign, and what we want to do here is divide by 100. If I divide by 100, I move that decimal point 2 to the left. So it becomes 0.66666. But what is that? That's 2/3. Or we can write it just this way. 0.67. You can round it. It's approximately 0.67. That's one way to write it. These repeaters are just a pain. That's what it amounts to. All right, 2/9 as a decimal is going to be 0.22. And again, you can either round it or write it like that, or you can put the bar notation on top of it. And 2/9 as a percent, what's going to happen? We have to multiply that by 100, huh? To get a percent. So if you take 0.222222, and multiply it by 100, you take that decimal point and go 2 over, it begins 22.222. So this is 22.29. 22.29%. Chances of running into this kind of stuff are pretty rare.
That's good.
It's a pain. All right. So I'm going to put the homework up for today because the next section is very different. And we don't have time to do much of it, so.
Are you gonna, exactly what sections of the test is the test gonna be on, so?
I don't have it memorized, so if you could wait for just a second, I'll check on that.
Yeah, I want a refund. I want a refund. Let's see.
Not too bad. Can't have
It's,
it.
let's see, I've only used 1 out of 3.
He said recycle the paper.